We're live, aren't we?
Apparently it's setting up the meeting connection, but yes, I suppose we are live. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 4 of Operations Unplugged. I'm joined by my co-host once again, John Appleby, who's eating something. I'm sure it's very tasty. And our special guest this week, as we talked about last week, is DJ Adams. DJ, I did not forget your name, but however, the live stream started talking back to me about 30 seconds later while I was introducing you. So
I'll
that's
believe
why I
you.
paused. Welcome, DJ, and thanks for joining
Who's
us.
that handsome man?
Me, moi. Thank you very much for having me, and it's a great honor to be with you two folks here. Thank you.
DJ, is that audio cassettes behind you that I see?
Now I do have some audio cassettes, but it's not there. I thought they were the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy original radio series on audio cassettes, which are somewhere in there, but those are CDs, yes, which I've not opened for a long time.
Who narrates that one, DJ?
Pardon?
Who narrates that?
It's a play.
It's the original series, yeah. It's the original characters. So, Jeffrey McGivern and Mark Wynne Davey and Simon Jones, Peter Jones as the book, and so on. You know, the original series that went out. Was it 1978?
78.
Yeah, 78. Yeah, fantastic. And I find myself quoting things from that original radio series, you know, left, right, and centre, always.
Anyone who has not watched not seen, no, not listened to, that's how it works.
You got there in the end.
It's been a long week. We'll get to that in a second. But anyone who has not listened to the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy BBC radio series must do so. Absolutely brilliant. And by the way, far better than the terrible, terrible various series adaptations and awful movie that was made.
Well, funnily enough, I mean, I first experienced that in the radio medium in the 70s, and I've prevented myself from watching any of the other media, TV or film, because I know it would destroy or partially destroy the images I have in my head of the scenes and the characters and what Marvin looks like in my head.
It doesn't. They're so bad that it doesn't destroy anything.
Okay.
Tell us how you really feel, John. Come on, let it out.
Oh, it's terrible. There hasn't been a good adaptation of it in the visual form.
No, well, I guess it must be really difficult to adapt that sort of thing anyway. But I'm sorry, I'm just distracted because I've got TweetDeck open and I've just seen Brenton's tweet, and we are now on a live Steam, which is quite exciting.
Steam, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Sure.
Yes.
Are you thinking like sauna, or are you more thinking Steam games?
Steam.
Yeah, let's
Steam
go
games.
with Steam games.
Yeah.
Why not? You know,
sauna never even came across my mind. But
the question is how many people will actually notice, or they'll just blindly retweet it. You know, I'm fine with it being live Steam.
Yeah, live Steam. Yeah.
My apologies for the eating, but this is basically the I was going to say new normal, but we're trying to say that. I mean, you get up in the morning and you sit on. Yeah, I'll drink. Yep.
Somebody was saying that there was a poll on Twitter, wasn't there, about after this is over, what are you going to do? Are you going to go business as usual? Go with the new abnormal? I was like, isn't that sort of a contradictory phrase? The new abnormal. I just didn't get what that meant.
And John knows I have an absolute rant about this as well, which is that people need to stop talking about normal being the new abnormal. It's just the only constant, as we've always said, is change, and it's just this is just another set of change, and it's just a little bit more fundamental than we're used to. So it's time for us to embrace that and just run with it and figure out what life looks like in this world that is just ever changing.
It reminds me of something that you and I were talking about just before we went live, which was the way that work is for those of us who are lucky enough to be able to continue to work from home and everything. How that change has accentuated what was already there. It sort of just amplified it, which is, for me, the fact that for some people, including me, work is very asynchronous. And the more the quicker you realize that, and the quicker you adopt your approaches to embracing the asynchronicity, the better it is. for example, email is I mean, when we're at work, when we're working in offices, things are asynchronous. Email's asynchronous. You have a conversation, from a philosophical perspective, that's asynchronous as well. But that's real time, really. But working from home and you're not in the same time zones as the team that I work with, we're scattered around the world, as are many people, and so by definition, things take longer. Responses take longer to come in. It's almost like we're working like we have to program in JavaScript, on Node.js, because it's all asynchronous. You have callbacks and everything.
Yeah,
and we're working in the age of callback.
We are, although I would say, but I completely agree with what you're saying. With one caveat, which is I'm finding myself spending a hell of a lot more time, and John and I talked about this the last time we spoke. I'm spending a lot more time on video calls. So that kind of is almost the opposite in some ways of the way I used to work, because I was very asynchronous in the way I worked, because I've always worked from home in some way, shape, or form. But now, because everybody else is, they are missing the social interactions they used to get when they were in the office. So they're spending a lot more time on calls with me. And so I'm spending a lot more time on video calls than I ever have. And it's slightly different I'm finding for those of us who've worked from home, who now have colleagues who are working from home for the first time and are in some ways missing that social interaction they used to have.
I'm noticing that with Michelle, my wife Michelle. She's in the other office, the other room rather, and she's on calls all day, every day with the people, because A, she misses that social interaction, but B, her job involves dealing with people all the time. So that is very much evident with Michelle. But at least for me, and at least I've noticed this with some of my colleagues as well, they're all saying, well, I'm going to send an email, I'm going to ask something, people's opinion, and it takes longer to come back.
Yes.
And it does take a while to get used to the fact that you're not going to get answers straight away. You're not going to get decisions straight away. You're not going to get where you want to get to as fast as you thought you might.
And so you need a backlog, is what you need.
You need a backlog, exactly. Yeah, swapping.
Well, Brenton's laughing, but it's precisely true.
It is.
And the other thing is, to counter Brenton's point, you also have to avoid not spending too much time in video meetings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First of all, what Brenton's sipping there at 6 o'clock on a Friday in Ireland.
Well, it was supposed to be 4 o'clock on a Friday, but you moved the meeting.
It looks like it's a deliberately opaque glass, or he's put some paper around it so we can't see.
I couldn't possibly comment.
If you ever do want to do that, by the way, the best thing to do is to get a mug. No one would ever guess.
A mug, or someone told me a sippy cup, as in a coffee sippy cup, was another one that someone told me, especially if you're walking through an airport or something. They said it was a good way of doing it.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah.
That is a vicious rumor.
I don't know whether it's going to be noticeable on the live stream, but both Brenton and I looked straight at you, John.
I think we're all just looking at the screen, to be honest. That's kind of how it works.
What is quite cool is I have found that I have a button that allows me to switch the stream from speaker to gallery view manually, which I didn't know I had as a button, which is quite cool. So now all three of us are on screen, but I'll switch it back to speaking person so I can sip my non-beer.
Actually, that's one of the things I do when I'm on video calls, which is not very often, but I try to move the window as near to the camera as I can, so that I'm looking up at you rather than looking down there or something like that, which looks a bit silly. Which
is actually why I you periodically see me glancing over to my left, because my left-hand screen has our live stream playing back to me, so I can make sure that we're still live, and then my right screen has my notes. But you guys are kind of up high on this screen here, just below the camera, for that exact reason.
And top tip, if you're using Zoom or Google and you're sharing screen, you can actually get the people in a strip, and you can move that strip to the top of the screen right next to the video camera.
That's exactly what I've done, and I've got obviously there's three of us, and I've wedged it to the left so that both Brenton and John are right in the middle, and I don't look at myself. So, yeah.
But let's be careful though, because before Sippy Cup conversation, John, you were trying to make a point, and we interrupted you. What were you trying to say? If you can remember.
I have no idea at this point. Yeah, no, it's as this started, I ended up with a lot of video calls. And by the time you've done 6 hours of a day of them, that's the day. A, the time has gone, and B, you're toast. You just headed down to the wine cellar for a bottle or something at this point. It's like just to drown it away. And so I've kind of taken to backing off that quite a bit, to try and avoid, back-to-back calls, the fatigue that comes from it, but also to get through some of the really productive stuff that you can do, the content creation side. And if you break it up, you can do that, but also not. And I think I said this last time, not to be afraid of like going for a run in the middle of the day, whatever it takes. You've got to get through the day.
I completely agree. Actually, myself and DJ were talking about this morning, Irish time. I had a very interesting situation where all of my capability of connecting to the internet was disconnected simultaneously this morning for about 3 hours. So the cell tower went down and my internet went down. So I had no internet whatsoever or phone service. But I had a couple of calls I had to do. So I ended up going for a long walk. All within 2 kilometers of my house as per current regulations. But I had to go up to the top of the hill to get signal, like it was 1995 again, to be able to be on the calls. But what I enjoyed about that was I was just out walking and I ended up having a very, very brisk walk of about 5K while I was on those calls, which was a very, very nice thing to do. It really kind of, at least it got me out of the house and upping my steps for the first time properly this week.
When I was contracting, doing SAP work at a customer a few years back, in fact, before, a long time before I was working with you guys, there was a particular guy who used to do walk and talks. If you wanted to meet with him, you had to be prepared to go outside and walk around the, around the property, let's say, and it worked really well. And Michelle does that as well now with her colleagues. That gets her out of the house as well on the lockdown. So yeah, it really works well. I've done it too.
So I do a lot of my one-on-ones that way. So the group stuff, we all do video. It's the rule. Yeah. But for one-on-ones, we just stick the phone in the pocket, go for a walk. Yeah. Hooray. Anyway, how is this lockdown treating you, DJ? You look like you have a new office.
Well, I have a new room in the house. As obviously I've said already, Michelle is also working from home. She's on calls all the time. I'm not on calls hardly any of the time, but I am doing live streams and other things. And these two things are not compatible with and other things. I don't know why.
It's not that. I'm not on calls, but I'm live streaming.
They're different, very different.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so and it's making me delirious actually. But so we don't want to talk over each other, and it wasn't working very well. So we're really lucky that I've got this little room that's just off the kitchen, which is like.
She kicked you out, didn't she?
Basically. Well, yeah. I mean, her desk is bigger than my desk, and mine was more portable, and I didn't mind having a change of space. And I feel quite erudite with this. Some people think this is one of those fake backgrounds, but it's real.
No.
And so yeah, it's nice. I like it. And
I heard about those things. They're books, I think they're called.
Yeah, they got paper. In fact, on the live stream that I finished about an hour and a half ago now, I went over and grabbed an actual book and thumbed through it on the video to show the kids and the parents.
Oh, because you're doing those code at home sessions, aren't you? How are they going?
They're going really well, thanks.
Do you want to give them a bit of a plug, actually, for anybody who has kids? Because I joined the first one and it was freaking awesome. So probably worth talking about what it is.
Yeah, so basically, in the current situation where we're all, having to stay at home and everything, I know that, my nephews, for example, and nieces, they're all having homework given to them by the school, and they do that in the morning. But, at the end of the day, they're going a little bit spare. And, for parents looking for something for their kids to do, and if they want to learn to code, learn to program, I'm doing a live stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3:30 in the afternoon. 15:30 for an hour. Beginners welcome, super friendly JavaScript, and we're covering all sorts of things. And I'm using projecteuler.net, which is a website of really nice, small, succinct problems to solve, mostly maths related. I wouldn't say mathematical, but mostly maths related, or there are some sort of word-based problems as well. And yeah, it's working out really well. I've got some regulars. I get some parents contacting me via email, asking questions and so on, which is great. So I do that on afternoons, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as opposed to my normal live stream,
Right.
Which is hands-on SAP Dev, which I do in the mornings.
Friday mornings, isn't it? 8 a.m.
Friday mornings, 8 a.m. UK time, yeah. And funnily enough, the talking of meetings and breaking things up and keeping going and stamina and exhaustion and everything. I know myself I'm a morning person, and by the time it gets to the afternoon, my brain is half dead. So in fact, I'm lucky enough to be able to resist any meetings in the morning, because that's my time for creation. That's my time for thinking, for doing the brain work. And it just so happens that the meetings I do have are with folks in the US, so those the afternoon anyway. So that's working. I'm super lucky. That's working really well for me. And I've got to the stage now where I am brave enough to decline, in a polite way with an explanation, any meetings in the morning, or most meetings, saying, sorry, but this is my brain time. How about this time instead?
I find it amusing, actually, that you earlier you were talking about the asynchronous working, and you mentioned email, and I kind of wanted to stop you, because I worked with you for many years at one point, and the one thing you do not do is email. Has that changed, or are you finding it more useful in this scenario?
Email is always useful, but it's not that I don't do it. It's I do it infrequently. So
yeah, it was always like once in the morning, maybe at lunchtime, and then in the evening, and that was it.
Yeah, of course. That's almost too much already.
But I feel like the world's changed a bit, though, and so there was a time when email, it was chats, it was document sharing, it was postal mail, it was everything. And now it sort of feels to me like those mediums have separated. You want to chat, you've got WhatsApp, you've got Google Chat, you've got Slack, you've got whatever.
Or you've got an entire dedicated screen, like I do, with every single one of the ones you just listed open, because different people use different platforms, which does my head in. But yes, you're right.
But that's the way it is. But and if you want to share documents, even if you're a Microsoft aficionado, it's now collaborative. Only our die-on-the-wall salespeople email documents. It's starting to drive me nuts, by the way. Otherwise it's in, we happen to use G Suite, but it doesn't matter what you are. Like, documents don't get shared by email anymore. And so now the question is, what's the purpose of email? And it doesn't have the purpose that it used to have.
I find some people use it as a record keeper. They send it in an email if they want a record kept of who they sent it to and why they sent it, when they sent it. Which I don't agree with. I'm not saying that's what I think, but I know that some people see it that way. And then an extension of that, they see it as a kind of a way of being beaten over the head with something in the future. If it was sent in an email and they don't do it, then it can be, they can be held account to it.
That's unfortunate. I've worked with people who have taken that approach with email, but I think for me, I suppose I see email as the slowest style of asynchronous conversation. So, if I want a quick chat, it's on Slack, for example, or even, Microsoft Teams or whatever, if the person is more of a Teams user. But I wouldn't, but if I have something to explain, or maybe
hold on, no, back up.
He thought he was going to get away with that, didn't he?
Hold on a second.
I don't know what you're talking about. What?
So you just casually dropped into conversation that you think Microsoft Teams is the right platform for asynchronous working.
That's a huge leap, conclusion to leap to there. Not at all, no. All I was saying was, I try and adapt to, if somebody I know is never going to be on Slack,
right?
Then of course, I draw the line at Skype. I wouldn't, I never start.
We all draw the line at Skype, but yes. Teams is actually good.
Yeah,
Teams.
To be fair, it is
fine. Yeah. But the email is for slower conversations where the conversation is more thoughtful. You want to be able to give the person a little bit of time to think about things and reply. So that the distinction is analog and slidey rather than binary.
I think email, really interesting use cases when you want to get somebody to think about something.
Yeah.
And so you want to, imbue information for them to consume and consider and then come back with a point of view.
I would agree with that completely. I use that exact tactic with if I know someone is naturally introverted and they prefer a bit of time to think about something.
Yeah.
That's exactly the tactic I would use. 100%.
Yeah, it works really well. So yeah, I mean, email is almost like the universal event bus for humans, in a way. So you can stick something on. You're not sure when the person's going to receive it because you're not sure when, especially if their name is DJ, when they're going to open their email client. But you're going to get a reply eventually, and probably a more considered reply. And also, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but I see media like Slack or Teams or IRC or anything like that. If you weren't there and you missed the conversation, it doesn't matter. So things that are important.
I think you're absolutely right, actually, because it brings us. It goes back to something John and I have talked about many times, which is you need that tool that allows you to, especially if you're talking about teams that are distributed. You have one team in the US, one in Europe, one in India, or something like that, to allow them to work on similar things, but not necessarily have been present for the entire day. They can go back and scroll up and read or search if they want to get the update on something. But I think that has become ever more important, especially, I mean, what this podcast is about is operations stuff. In an operations world where you're trying to keep systems up and running, you're trying to pass the baton on to the next team who's running your landscape. That stuff becomes so important to be able to do that asynchronously.
Yeah. Funnily enough, talking of chat-based applications like Slack, and back in the day, we used to use a lot of Java XMPP-based services. And I was involved in running SAP systems for a long time. I came from the basis world originally, and at one particular customer, well, it was actually I was employed by the customer. We built a whole monitoring infrastructure that joined humans and monitored devices together. So we had things polling, we had things pushing onto this general chat bus that we entered into rooms, but also these bots entered as well. And it was a great way for us to come together and have this shared understanding of the general sort of how the systems were doing. So that worked really well, and that was back in, goodness knows when. That was in the early 2000s. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, XMPP. Who knew? There's a really good book on it, by the way.
Did you write that
That's
book?
Another plug.
Down there somewhere.
No, I think you find you're using it to prop the door open.
Well, no, in fact, I have used books like that to prop the monitor up. And my favorite monitor prop book was a book on Corba, in fact, and it was that thick.
So as I think I described to you guys earlier before this, I'm in technology chaos this week. Nothing is working. My office it looks fine here, but the other side of it is just this mass of wires and mess. And I'm backing up my Mac so I can completely wipe it. It feels like I'm back in Windows 95 days where you had to reinstall every 3 months. Anyhow, so I to lift the screen up so I can not look like I'm looking at my underwear. Sorry, trousers. Just kidding. I used books, and that is in fact my book that I used, or rather 10 of them in little stacks.
Your own book? Oh, not that book.
Yep.
Oh, not that book. How is it that book has come up twice this week already?
Well, somebody came up with an idea that we should write another book, or I should write another book. And then the marketing team had a nervous breakdown. Again. So probably going to miss that for now.
Exactly.
We have had a few chats, by the way. The main chat that has come in is apparently, John, your camera is very sharp and it makes you look like a ghost. So we've moved on from calling my backboard a headboard, which by the way it is, to John, you're a ghost.
So one of the many problems I've got with my laptop is the color balance is not quite working on my
eyesight
camera.
built in. Yeah.
No, I'm using a Logitech, but the software isn't working for it. Nothing's working. And so the color balance is a little bit off. And because the last time I used the camera, it was sunnier. and so the color is a little bit whiter in here, so I look white. So I look a little pale. Don't look this pale in real life.
To be fair, we are an operations podcast, and you know, the stereotypical operations professional does spend a lot of time under fluorescent lights. So we'll call it a fluorescent tan, shall we?
Yes. Well, and I'll try now moving to the FaceTime camera for shits and giggles, and I'm now going to be orange.
Whoa!
Wow, that's like quite different.
Somehow.
Yeah.
But I think you're also accentuating the pastiness, John, by wearing a black top and having black hair.
And that, by the way, is another accident of the Zoom generation that we're living in, which is I was doing Montessori with the child, and then I had a customer meeting straight after, but they were running over. So my wife very kindly dropped off a T-shirt for me to change into for the customer meeting, which is this one. This was the first one to hand.
But you see, I'm doing the opposite though. I'm doing, I'm naturally pasty white Irish pale skin. I'm deciding to wear white to make it, and that background to make it more look like I have some sort of coloring.
So how did your beard get so ginger?
Awesome. It is very impressive.
Hold on, that topic wasn't in the rundown.
because your hair was not this ginger.
No, it wasn't. No, my hair is very dark brown. But yeah, and literally it starts there. It's where the ginger starts, and then it's kind of white here in the middle. But I think that's just comes from. Thanks.
It's a merkin.
But just to complete the triptych of odd-looking faces here. I mean, the video calls I do go on, and I can see myself there. I've not really noticed this before, but how noticeable my broken nose is. It's just like completely bent.
You see, now if you hadn't said that, I wouldn't have noticed. But now I can't
thought you were just turning a little bit to the right.
That's my party piece. I can look round a corner or smell round a corner. Yeah.
So now, oh, look at that! Isn't that fascinating? I never noticed that. So now you're going to go and have to have plastic surgery when this is all over.
I have had surgery on my nose.
Oh wow!
A long time ago, I broke it so many times that it was just completely shattered inside.
How did you break your nose?
Rugby mostly, multiple times. Yeah, but I've only recently started noticing that. Yeah, God, it's still. I mean, it was a lot worse than it was before. So yeah, to make you feel better, pasty face, ginger beard, broken nose.
I think we just got the title for this podcast.
Anyway, in fact, John, you said something just then that triggered a thought in my mind, which was about having to reinstall your machine and everything. One of the things that I try and do, and I think you probably know this anyway, but is not to rely on a huge number of layers of things I've installed over time, because it gets really brittle, and then if I move machines, then I'm going to start all over again, like you are right now. I mean, one of the beautiful things about this Chrome OS device is that I have these Linux containers that I develop in, but I deliberately delete them every couple of weeks and recreate them. And therefore I have to have scripts to make sure I get all the tools back in and all my configuration right, which, forces me to really keep things clean and lean, clean and lean. Yeah. And it works for me. That works really well. So I don't rely on any machine whatsoever.
Yeah. I don't quite go to that extent, but absolutely, I'm the exact same. I can pick up any machine and log in, and nearly all of my day-to-day stuff that I want to do, I can do without having to install a piece of software or anything like that. I think that's very important right now, because you can't rely on a machine to continue working, especially in John's life at the moment.
Well, and to be fair, it's something quite specific that isn't working that's the problem, which is the operating system, but it's a specific component of it. So I've got this beautiful LG 5K screen, which supplies a Thunderbolt connection back to the Mac, and the power element of the Thunderbolt is working, but the data element, it doesn't seem to be working right with this particular Mac OS. And so I can't use the screen, even though I can power from it. And I've tried various things, and I think it's just easier to put a fresh Mac OS on it.
I mean, I'm going to ask what Brenton is probably going to ask. It's not a cable, is it?
That's what I was going to ask. You're reinstalling your
Right,
operating
let's
system,
get
but
let's get to IT support. And the answer is I bought a new cable.
Okay.
And of course,
yeah. But the
for those
question is, did
people-
you buy a certified cable or did you buy a cheap knockoff?
Well, of course, I bought a cheap knockoff. Are
There
you
we
kidding
go.
me? Do you know how much Thunderbolt cable? Does anyone know how much Thunderbolt cable costs?
About 40 quid, isn't it?
And the rest, $89 for a full one.
Why are you buying your cables?
It's a Thunderbolt cable. Like
Yeah.
it has one of them, and it has to be for this screen. It has to be 100 watt, 40 gigabyte active cable. And they're about $89.
Have you
And
tried
so-
using the charging cable that came with your Mac?
Thunderbolt, not USB 3. They're different cables.
They're the same thing now.
No,
Oh.
they're not. No. They're totally different cables. Does it have one of these? Do you see that thing? That's called a Thunderbolt.
Yeah, but mine has that.
Can I just point out it's also black and John is holding it next to him.
Yeah, against his hair. We can't
I'm
see
getting
it.
paler and paler. Anyhow, I bought one for about $40 by a company called Zika. And there's nothing wrong with the cable because when I go into recovery mode on the Mac, it all works fine. And then when I start up my Mac again, it goes wrong again.
Oh.
And have you tried plugging another Mac in and seeing if it worked?
Don't have another Mac that can drive a 5K screen. How many do you have?
Yeah, I don't think I've got any. machine that
Two.
can drive a 5K.
Two. I can use my wife's one.
Use your wife's one, yeah. My wife has a 12-inch MacBook and that cannot. And the iPad Pro can only do it with the newer version of this screen, which also supports USB 3.
Got it.
So
That makes more
anyway, USB-C rather. But anyway, to cut to the previous point, it's just easier to put a new Mac OS on it at this point.
Yeah, and cleaner. Yeah, I think it's that sounds good to me.
You know, but the terrifying thing is, what if you lost something that isn't on the cloud?
Yeah, I always forget one thing. I actually reinstalled my phone the other day, and every time I do it, I always forget one thing. And it's the same thing every time. You'd think I would learn because I reinstall my phone maybe once every 6 months, and I forgot to do a backup of my WhatsApp chats for that day, so it does it automatically every night anyway. But I lost like all the messages from midnight through to 10 a.m. when I did the reset.
I'm sure that bugged you for about a minute before you forgot about it.
Pretty much. But it's always the same when I forget. But you're right, you always forget something.
Yeah. So I'm doing a time machine backup first.
Nice.
Yeah, but you see, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with time machine backups because I feel like you're bringing back in all the crap you were trying to get rid of as well.
Well, yeah, but you can poke into it and get a specific file out.
As opposed to using it to restore the machine.
Correct. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Fresh OS install and then
just putting what you
storing
need.
the time machine. I've copied off what I think I need onto a drive anyway. And anyway, it's on the cloud. We're in a cloud native world.
Actually, talking of cloud native and on the cloud and everything, one of the other things I delight in, I suppose, in this whole idea of, I don't want to rely on any particular machine, is I've moved from my live stream, which I've been doing a lot of recently because of the situation. I've moved from let's call it on-premises software, as in I've been using OBS and looking at other similar sorts of software as well, to using a cloud-based service called Lightstream. So I can live stream from any machine, and it's wonderful. Again, I'm free from the shackles of any given device. So I would definitely recommend you look into that.
To be fair, I'm quite impressed with them because we were trying to figure out how we would do this multiple person chat and live stream onto YouTube because they got rid of Hangouts on Air, which is the way we used to do it.
Right.
Which is why we ended up using Zoom, like everybody else in the world apparently at the moment. But I'm actually quite impressed with it. It's working quite well, and seems to be the quality is quite good.
Are you sending the Zoom meetings straight to the ingest servers on YouTube?
Yeah.
So it's all built in. So I literally have a button here that says live stream to YouTube, and then it connected to my browser, and the browser asked me who did I want to live stream as, and that's it.
Nice.
I gave it a title,
nice.
and that was it. Now the only downside is that Zoom, but there's that thing in the bottom left-hand corner of the live stream that says Zoom in giant lettering, which apparently I can remove if I feel so inclined, but I just haven't figured out how to do it yet.
email customer support or something. But Zoom is sort of, I don't know if they're doing well or if they're in trouble. They've got about 300% growth in bandwidth, but apparently everyone's using the free service. And so the question is, okay, that's fair enough. They're being good corporate citizens and they're giving it away for free. But A, can they make any money? I mean, they have to pay for the Google servers that they're using. And then B, are these people going to turn into paid customers later on? I don't know.
Well, and the interesting part is, like, if you take so every Saturday night since this started over the past 3 weeks, myself, my wife, and some of our friends, we used to go out for dinner quite regularly on a Saturday night. That was our thing. So now we have a virtual dinner where we all cook the same dinner, and we all log on at 8:30 and we eat our dinner, and then we sit down and talk for a while. And they're not making any money from that, but of course it does go on for 4 hours because there's at least 3 of us in that group who have paid Zoom accounts. So we're just using our paid Zoom accounts for this personal stuff. And I can't imagine that's unusual, because people there is that 40-minute limit on the free tier, but all you need is one person who has a paid account, and they're not difficult to find.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their business is going to be like in 2 quarters. I hope
they are getting hit. They are getting hit in the press though about all their security stuff. I think a little bit unfairly, if I'm honest, because any platform that shows 300% growth overnight is going to get scrutinized in a way.
You say unfairly for deliberately updating even non-Facebook users' data to Facebook without people's permission.
That's again. Some of that is speculation. I will say that, and I'm not defending the company. I have no shares in the company. I'm not speaking for the company. But some of the stuff they were getting hit on over, this Zoom meeting bombing and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, come on,
right, okay,
that wasn't their fault. It was just, if you send a screenshot with your meeting ID up onto Twitter, you kind of deserve what you get.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, was there some sort of UK Parliament meeting that some minister tweeted with the meeting ID, and people died.
What did he expect was going to happen?
Probably nothing, because if he'd have thought about it, then he wouldn't be a minister, would he?
Yeah, true. Very true.
It's actually been one of the things that's been most fascinating to me is that the use of tools like Zoom with people who've never used them before. And my Montessori group is great fun because there are obviously some that use it regularly, but most of the teachers have never used it before.
It also fascinates me because there's a generation of folks that I'm noticing, for example, my nephews and, also, Michelle's family, my family, they're flitting between, whatever apps their friends are using to meet for dinner, for example, virtually. So it's Zoom and it's House Party and it's goodness knows what. And they don't care. Yeah, exactly. House Party. I have no idea. So they know more
Next
about
to be
this
saying
stuff.
TikTok.
Yeah, no, not TikTok. Anyway, but that I don't know what TikTok is. Anyway.
Would you like to do a little synchronized dance, DJ? That's TikTok.
There we go. Job done.
Okay, but they know more about this stuff, and they're free with moving across these different things. Oh yeah, it's a House Party thing, or it's a Zoom thing, or it's a WhatsApp thing, or it's I don't know. Wow, can I just sit in and just join in? I have no idea what's going on, and that's great.
Yeah,
people have really adapted super fast.
They have, but they've had to adapt because, especially humans are social creatures. We enjoy interacting with other humans. You have to find a way to do that. But on a far more important note, DJ, what does your T-shirt say? I think it says OAuth at 8 a.m. It does say OAuth at 8 a.m.
It does say OAuth at 8 a.m. So
I'm trying to find the play in words here, and I'm struggling.
Yes, that's quite. So there's a bit of a story to this, which, as you can imagine, which is on my Hands on SAP Dev live stream 2 or 3 weeks back on a Friday episode. I was doing. Well, in fact, it's been a number of episodes. I've been doing OAuth, digging into OAuth, the different grant types, the different flows. OAuth is, super awesome and super interesting, but also super complex if you don't know much about it. So I've been sort of exploring that by looking behind the scenes, looking behind the curtain, what's going on, how does it work, what talks to what, the resource owner and the authentication server, and the resource server and the client. Blah. and a chap called Alex Ellis, who is learning a ton from in my Raspberry Pi Kubernetes explorations. He is the person behind OpenFAS, Open Functions and Service, and all sorts of other goodness. He joined the live stream 8:15 on a Friday morning, and he in the chat he said, "What? OAuth at 8 a.m." And I said, "That's a really good phrase for a t-shirt." So here it is, and that hands-on SAP Dev live stream series has spawned lots of t-shirts. As I think you know, I've got a t-shirt with Functor on it. I've got a t-shirt with "Does not work on Windows" on it. I've got a t-shirt with "The future is terminal" as well.
I like that. And then you're going to need a new one which says "Pasty Ginger and Broken Nose."
That could be the new dating app.
Pasty Ginger and Crooked.
Crooked, yes. That's better.
Oh god, we're about 45 minutes in, guys. I think we've gone through everything in the rundown. We talked about code at home, security, asynchronous working. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up?
A beer.
Oh, thanks, DJ.
Sorry.
I'm a little ways away from that.
Yeah, I'm not allowed.
I'm about 8 feet away.
Maybe I'll succumb to one beer this evening. I've agreed not to drink beer just because. So my wife, Ivana, we're expecting our second child in the next few weeks. So I'm being cautious and making sure that I'm able to drive at all times.
And is beer so here in Pennsylvania, beer is a little bit of an issue because all of the liquor stores are state run, so they've all been shut down. And they tried to move to online, but unfortunately, they realized that the system was really designed for ship to store and not direct drop. So they can only process about 100 orders a day. So you're allowed to order 6 bottles once a day if you get lucky enough to get into the shop at the 2 minutes that they're open and you get in line. I mean, it's and it's actually illegal to order wine to your door in Pennsylvania. It has to go through a state liquor store, although obviously everybody is now breaking the law. But beer is more interesting because where do you get beer from? And so I'll give a shout out to my favorite brewery, Neshaminy Creek, just in Northeast Philadelphia. And so I put a phone call order into them and ordered in bulk. And they then put the beer in the trunk of my car without any social contact. So contactless curbside delivery of beer, nice. Which I thought was really the next coming. I was just wondering, do you guys have any of these same first world problems that I've got, or is this as straightforward?
I can't say we've had much of a problem in Ireland, to be quite honest with you. The liquor stores, or the off licenses, as we call them here, are considered essential services. So they have remained open and functioning to the fullest extent. So
there would be a riot.
Right, a little bit. Although I was discussing this with my neighbor earlier today, and we were actually talking about how we're all spending far more on food than we've ever spent. And then we stopped and we went, "Oh no, wait, that would be that would there's that." But also we're all adding a lot more alcohol into our carts as we're going around the store, because obviously we don't have to buy a beer and wine and liquor at a liquor store. We can actually just buy it from the supermarket as we're going around. So idea. that's where we're spending more money. It's we go, oh yeah, we get 2 bottles this week. Why not?
Just in case.
Exactly. You never know when you're going to run out.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's the issue. What about you, DJ? Anyway, sorry.
No, all the breweries locally in Manchester, for example, are all doing, or most of them are doing online shops, or you can ring up and they'll send around. So I had a guy in a van came around from Marble yesterday, delivered some beer, got some beer from Cloudwater. My good friend Steve at Beer Nouveau, he's opened up an offie, and he's now allowing other beer producers to sell through his store. So yeah, I think that people are okay here. We're all beered up.
And in Pennsylvania, it's a real problem if you want actual liquor, because you really can't ship liquor across state lines.
Really?
Yeah, it's all local. Not as an individual.
Wow.
So the way what you have to do now is you have to now find a local craft distillery who will then do local deliveries of your favorite hooch.
Well, I mean, there's massive positives there, which is we're all trying to encourage each other, and we're definitely trying to shop a bit more local where we can. I'm very happy to try my local distillery's stuff, mostly because the nearest distillery to me is about 2 miles that way, and it's the Jameson distillery.
That's why your beard is so orange.
Something in the water.
We'll call it water.
In fact, talking of hyperlocal, I was looking for. I ran out of coffee crazily because I use packed coffee and I also use rave coffee, but I ran out of coffee for some stupid logistical reason a couple of live streams ago, and a good friend of the live stream family and SAP generally, Gregor Wolf, he very kindly sent me some coffee from Bavaria, from a local roaster near to him. And of course, I wanted to send some back. So I was looking, I was going to go to Anco's Coffee in Manchester, but I suddenly saw on Google Maps, there's a coffee roastery 3 miles from me. It's just ridiculous. I didn't even know they existed. Fantastic. Heart and Graft. So a big shout out to them. I placed an order, came the next day, handwritten note saying, thanks, DJ. See you soon. Yeah, it was really, and the coffee was really good.
Gregor is such a good guy. I have a lot of time for Gregor. He's top guy. He really is.
But the coffee didn't arrive in time, did it, DJ?
No, it didn't arrive.
Not that much of a good guy.
It's not. It's a bit of a distance between Munich and Manchester. But yeah, I had to have some horrible stuff. Some decaf granulated.
Ooh, that really is scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm all caffeinated again. So it's all good, and but Heart and Graft, fantastic. Who knew? It's just it's just next door, but a few to my grandma who I go shopping for on Saturday.
So you might be picking some up on the way.
I may.
You did just get very quiet, John. Just so you know.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yeah, that is much better.
I'm quiet and pale. It's really pale. I think I'm getting paler as the days.
You're just fading into the background.
And I tried to fix it, right? So I opened the little app that's supposed to fix it, and then I couldn't hear you guys until I quit that app. So I'm leaving this be for this time, and it'll be fixed next week.
But the idea of quiet and pale and just fading into the background is a very Russell Hoban's image. Russell Hoban is one of my favorite authors. I think was Russell Hoban born in Pennsylvania?
Ooh. Well, John is currently fading into the background, although he's fading into...
I'm fade to black, yeah.
Fade to black. No, that just means stand up.
he just uses beautiful images. Sorry, wait a minute.
Oh, the glasses are on. You've gotten a book, haven't you? You definitely have a book.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I'm just seeing if I can find the about Russell Hoban. I'm sure he was born in.
Brenton, do you want to use Google in the meantime?
There we go. Try and. I don't know. Oh,
the future is analog.
It says it here. Russell Hoban was born in 1925 in Lansdale, Pennsylvania.
Lansdale, that's very close to me.
There you go. So yes, so your description
miles.
of yourself. Going pale and quiet into the background is just conjured up an idea from Russell Hoban. It's a beautiful writer. Recommended.
Well, I think it might be time to turn off the
live stream before we bore everybody. Yes, I completely agree. DJ,
that wasn't an indictment on DJ's previous segment.
It really wasn't.
Not intended to be.
But actually, before we go, DJ, do you want to quickly cover where people can find you, find your various live streams and your blogs and stuff?
Yes, just go to qmacro.org.
QMACRO? Perhaps?
Yep.
.org. Excellent. So, DJ, thank you so much for coming on. I really actually enjoyed that. Not that I'm surprised I did, but, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Is that a backhanded compliment or what?
For anybody who wants...
faint praise.
Yes.
Yeah, and for anybody who wants to watch any future live streams, we were planning on doing these at 4 p.m. Eastern every Friday. Sorry, 4 p.m. UK time every Friday, but we're going to be moving that around a little bit to account for some other schedules. Isn't that right, John?
I have a 2-year-old and he has Montessori, and I regret nothing.
But DJ, I hope you come on again in future episodes. It's been great having you on. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as always, John. And thank you everybody for
Thanks,
watching.
guys.
And hopefully we'll see you on the next stream.
Bye,
Thanks
folks.
very much.